Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. I'm Sara Jane, and welcome to today's conversation on Gift of Healing TV. I'm delighted to be joined by my co-host, Scott Holmes. Scott, welcome.
Thank you.
And our guest for our program this evening, because it's evening with me, is Dianna Leeder. Dianna, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I appreciate it, and I'm happy to be here.
Sadly, we haven't got our other guest, and we just send sort of lots of love and healing and care to Dirk Albrodt with all that he's going through at the moment in sort of personally. So, Dirk, if you ever get to see this, we are thinking of you, and we totally understand. And we're going to miss you, but we're going to get on with our program. This is part of our series, Selfish or Harder to Manipulate. All of us are authors within the book. I didn't become selfish. I became harder to manipulate, which was released earlier this year. That's 2025. If you're watching this later than that. And we wanted to get together and have sort of chats and share a little bit more wisdom and information and support for you. So I'm going to actually hand over. Well, I'm actually going to ask Dianna first. Share a little about yourself and why you chose to be part of this book.
Yes, okay, sure. So I have been voice challenged for, I don't think it ever really ends. I think you just learn how to manage it. So for a very long time, not that I understood it years ago, but I do now, and that's why I really like to present and write about why that's important to understand what's happening to us, no matter what our issue is. If we understand it better, we can manage it better. I don't think there are very many people in the world that have not been impacted by voice. So it's a good place to start. I think a good general place. Yeah. I want to say that the wound itself, and I am referring to this as the voice wound, and I did hear from someone else last week, I've never heard of the voice wound before. Well, it's because I just call it that. That's the way it goes. And I call it that because it's something that does not go away. Again, we have to learn to manage it. So that's what I want to share about today is how to do that.
Thank you so much. Scott, I'm going to hand over to you.
Why, thank you very much. I have had the pleasure to know Dianna for a number of years. We worked on a book together called Transcendent Men, which was well received, an Amazon bestseller, and it all came together. A men's book came together because of Dianna, because she wanted to give men a voice. And her work through the last 30 plus years has been about voice. Now, she uses the term voice wound, but think about it in terms of your own lives, about when something gets stuck, when you can't say it, when you can't verbalize it, when you can't express what you're feeling. Or when you say things come out of your mouth that you really don't believe, and it's just recitation. Dianna, what have you found to be the biggest voice wounds, if you will, with the people that you've worked with and that you've walked through this life with?
Mm-hmm. So I think there were two, Scott, if I can just double that up a little bit. And one is that we tend to ignore what we know about ourselves or connecting with ourselves because the wound is telling us that we need to pay attention to what's happening outside of us as opposed to in here. So in doing that, of course, we follow others' direction. And it could be very subtle, of course. I mean, you both will understand that. It could be really subtle. But it's not until you actually start paying attention to what the wound is and why it's there, that you can start to take a look at it from the outside, looking in, as opposed to just reacting to what's happening. And the voice wound is really getting to know what that is not about just taking a look at a wound as a place that, oh my goodness, there's some other place that I need to heal. That's not what it is at all. It's the piece, it's what shows up for us when we want to be expressive, and what kind of puts up that little barrier for us. So it's not about, it's not really about looking at us having an issue or a problem that needs to be healed. It's simply understanding what it is. So my own personal voice wound is a witch wound from, previous lives. And that, when I took a look at that and I just understood it. I learned what it meant. I learned what the circumstance was in a very general way. And then I applied it to the kind of fear that I would have felt back in the day about expressing myself. So it really is a matter of simply taking a look, identifying what it is from the outside, looking over the fence, not being in the middle of the muck, but looking over the fence and saying, yeah, that would have done it. That's why, that's why I respond in this way. That's why I react so harshly to this kind of personality. That was always a big one for me. Don't give me a pushy man, because that doesn't work for me, So that's really the thing about the voice wound, is that we get to use it as a way of understanding what is happening for us today. Did that answer your question?
That makes so much sense, because I think about the fact that I got scolded as a child and the coffee went all over my face, down my neck, and the jumper I was wearing stuck to my skin. So I still have those scars. And I was just under a year old. But not only was it then the throat that was part of the physical issue, but because of the rules of the hospital, my parents got to see me for, I think it was only an hour once a week.
Oh, goodness.
So all that crying, all that wanting my parents, and I wasn't listened to, I wasn't heard, because of the rules and circumstances. There was nobody to blame, but a child doesn't understand that. That's abandonment, that's rejection. Nobody's going to listen to me. Why even bother to speak? So it was all about throat, which in some respects does make an awful lot of sense with what I find myself now doing, because it's all about using my voice and using toning and using sound, but allowing myself to be a channel for that. We can heal that. We can support that, and we can find a strength. You came to understand it was from past life. Who's to say mine isn't past life as well? But it was very much, very physically in this life for me. But it was part of the gift I gave myself so that I can do what I do today. And it's how do we've just been talking about hindsight in another program, haven't we, Scott? It's how can we look back at what has happened, whether it's this life, past lives, whatever. What can we learn from that? What can we take from that? What can we grow from that? So, yeah, no, Sir Scott.
You bring up some really good points, because it's when we can't speak. There's got to be the reason. It's conditioning, it's trauma, it's pain, it's oh, you shouldn't say that. You can't say that. For me, it was in finding my voice in a different way, and for me, it was finding my voice through my heart. I always spoke through logic. I always spoke through rules. I always spoke through judgment. I always spoke through everything that I was conditioned. This is how I spoke. And I always, people would see me as severe or stern, or, I'm a 6'2". I'm a tall guy, so authority figure. And so I didn't know how any other way to be. And when I finally learned how to take a breath, a real breath, instead of reacting right away and speaking right away without even thinking about it, I do that every day now in conversations, to take a breath. And whatever is spinning in my mind doesn't necessarily come out anymore. I wait. Does it need to be said? Am I going to say it in the nicest possible way? And is it really how I feel? And it takes all of 2 to 3 seconds for me to just put a pause, that breath, to be able to say the right things in the right way. So that, because what I never realized was how much I hurt people by just reacting. And it could have been my 8-year-old self, or my 13-year-old self, or my 22-year-old self that was spitting all that out, because it was an automatic reaction. Instead of speaking through my 60-plus-year-old self and having intelligence, compassion, kindness involved in that discussion. And so voice has always been something very important to me. I have found it through writing myself. Something about the process of writing that's really allowed me to dig deep and be able to voice, another way for voice to come out. So explain a little bit, Ms. Dianna, about the work that you do with Find Your Voice coaching, and how all of this pertains to really the work that you do.
Yes, of course. So I kind of have a little, many little things that I have my fingers in, because it's not, it's not just as simple as you use your voice or you can't use your voice. It's not. We need to be able to look back at those wounds, identify them. Plus, we need to look at what our triggers are. If there's something that is a trigger and we react to it, then we're not going to be able to speak what we really need to speak authentically. So I like to look at different pieces. So yes, there is one-to-one coaching, of course, and it's really this whole process of understanding where you are, why you're there, including, as Sara pointed out, that we make agreements before we get here about what we're going to experience, and we're going to experience that. So knowing all that and understanding all that gives us a better chance of making more consciously chosen and deliberately chosen behaviors and actions and words that will really allow us to be understood. Because how many times do we, and I say the royal we, how many times do we simply say, an angry no, or how dare you, or, challenge back when the challenge is really coming from somewhere else. You know, we really don't have the need or the want or really the huge desire to be angry with somebody, you know, but we're going to do it anyway because that's what's coming up in that moment. So getting to know ourselves is a really big part, certainly of any one-to-one work that I do. And group work, I do the same thing in group work. And a lot of that is, specifically for women, is about understanding and following through on what we're learning about ourselves. So, because what's the first thing we do when we, you know, oh yeah, I'm going to do this course, this is going to be really great. And then we're finished and it's like, oh yeah, no, I don't have time to follow through with that. I don't have time for that practice and that kind of thing. So it's a 3-month program to try to support women so that they walk away with not just the tools, but the steadfastness, I'll say, to see it through. So that's a big one. But I also like to teach this through dance. Not that I am a great dancer, and not that I could, suggest to anybody that I could teach them how to dance. I cannot, because dance is just another, we were talking about this earlier, Sarah, dance is just another place to express ourselves. So when you join dance meditation, you come in and you're able to not just release through dance, but you're able to feel a different vibration. And then we meditate in that vibration. So it's kind of a win-win. So there are a bunch of different ways. And Scott, you know me well enough to know probably all of this stuff, which is great. But I think it's really important to make it broad because our lives are broad. You know, we're not pigeonholed into, oh, this is my one and only experience. Our lives are broad. And since so much of voice is about all our experiences, again, not just a pigeonhole, but about all of them, it feels to me that it's the right thing to do to be able to invite people in from different avenues. So dance may be what is great for you. Voice, your vocal Reiki. Sarah, that may be your thing. Scott, you're coming at it from the guy's point of view and a different perspective too than many of the guys in the book, in the men's book. So it's a broad issue that we all need to take a look at. But I really do enjoy being able to invite people in from different perspectives and with different experiences.
So dance is, and this surprised me, and you had said to me before that you do, when you clean up after supper, you have a dance party. You put on the radio and you clean the dishes and clean the kitchen to dance. It's just to get into the vibration and get into it. And I always love that because you are taking and making the most fun out of doing some of the most mundane tasks. And you're bringing that element, that vibration into your life. And that is, I often wonder, I've got to do a talk down in Denver at the end of September. And I'm trying to figure out in 45 minutes how to make it the most fun. If you sit there and lecture somebody for 45 minutes, their eyes glaze over, you lose them after 5 minutes, and that's about it. So I want to make it experiential. I want to make it fun. I want to be able for people to be able to interact and react and have it be memorable. Now, they're not going to remember the words that I say, but they're going to remember something about the experience. And what I find is, and Sarah and I do these shows with David and Gail once a month, and the two of us, and I often wonder how much people take away, but we're hoping that through the course of this, that there's one thing that they take away with them. And if we can do that and give them that one thing, how marvelous is that? So in talking about how important voice is, and I think you both know that in dealing with, especially with clients, is that getting them to say the words sometimes of fully expressing how they feel or what has happened is such a freeing, liberating thing. When I know, I'm sure it's happened to you where clients have just told you things that they've never expressed before because they're in such a safe place. They know that there is no judgment. They know that they're being held in professional hands, and they tell you something that they've never expressed before. And the difference is those things that they're hiding in the closet, and they reach back and, on the shelf, that back shelf where no one's ever found it, and they reach out and they bring it out and they kind of give it to you as a gift. How liberating is that for people to be able to do? And the expression of voice is how we tell the world how we want them to react to us, right? It's kind of where we hold our boundaries, where we put our boundaries for people and say, yeah, you don't want to go beyond this point. I'm really not comfortable with this point. Mm-hmm. And can you, I guess, Dianna, expand on how important voice is for boundaries and how we frame our lives like that?
Yeah, sure. So first I want to go back just a little bit and say, I hope you're going to have a dance party at the beginning of your session coming up. And if you do,
yes,
please
I
videotape
am.
it. Yay, I love it. And you know what? I love it because it's a freeing thing to do. If nothing else, it just, you're releasing stuff while you're dancing. So now let me get back to the actual question at hand, which was what? Remind me, please. I was getting so excited about the dance party. Boundaries.
So how voice with boundaries, with teaching the world how to treat us.
Yeah. Okay, so what's coming up for me now is about the need to respond in certain ways. That, often if we think that there's something wrong with us, that we can't speak up when we need to, then typically we're not likely to respond in ways that we should be. So as an example, setting a boundary and knowing what our boundaries are, okay, I can do this. I think about it. I think about it with people, how, and energy, how you feel energy from different people, and know the people that you could sit down and you could tell the world to, but there are others that maybe, you don't have the same resonance with, so you don't. So that's what I think about when I think about boundaries. And I think sometimes when we don't understand our own boundaries to begin with, then we follow again what we've learned from our conditioning, from the human sauce conditioning, which is don't let anybody push you around. There's probably something wrong with you that you can't speak up. Make sure that you speak really loud, louder than the other person. Don't let anybody take advantage of you. When in fact, once you know and understand what your wound is, what your triggers are, and acknowledge that you at least in the beginning, that you are open to learning about making consciously determined decisions, then you can manage it all differently. Once you've gotten there, then you can manage it differently. You understand, especially with the consciously chosen decisions, that you're here to love to begin with. Big one, right? Huge one. And secondly, you're here to enjoy life and have fun. So, it becomes less about what everybody else is doing and us reacting to that. So, oh, that guy really ticks me off, I'm going to let him have it. And it becomes more about, oh, you know what? Like I can lift this person. I don't have to mess with my boundaries. I can still stick to what I know is healthy for me. But I can still, I can honor that person in whatever way I choose to. I can honor them by showing them respect and showing them love and showing them kindness. I can work like that, and I can still hold on to my boundaries. And I think, I know that's the one that I always go to. That's, and I feel like it's something that we keep learning our entire human lives, to be respectful, to be kind, and to hold that boundary because, and sadly, not everybody's quite there yet, and that's okay. Everybody's got their own path and their own timing. So yeah, but we need to hold on to ours regardless.
I'd like to add something in here. It was the thought that suddenly went bam. How many times were we told as children, children should be seen and not heard? Which on top of everything else, but that could be the damage to a child. That could be the trauma to a child, especially if what they were trying to share was actually something quite important. It might be important to them, but it could have actually been important to whoever they were trying to tell it to as well. And people just didn't listen. But then you were talking about this dance I have a mantras CD. So whenever I'm doing the ironing, I have this mantras CD playing. And so I'm actually singing along with these mantras at the same time as doing the ironing. Not particularly a singer, in spite of the fact that I use toning for my work. But then that's channeled. When I'm singing, that's something totally different. It's finding fun ways to give yourself permission to use your voice. And maybe if we start with the fun ways first, just for ourselves, because it's so important. Sometimes people have issues. They say the body does speak to us. It does let us know what's going on, but we've got to understand that. So if you've got problems with your eyes, what are you not seeing clearly? If you've got problems with your hearing, what are you not listening to? Throat, what are you not saying? But that saying doesn't mean to other people necessarily. It's what are you not admitting to yourself? So the body does speak to us. And there are very many others, but I thought I won't just do the one. I'll do a couple. The body does speak to us. So if suddenly you're finding you're getting a bigger issue than usual with your throat, is it something you're not being honest with for somebody else, or you're not actually being honest with yourself about something? And so it's being open and aware of that. And we can, one of the things I say to people, because one of the things I do is I will tone people's name. And that can be so powerful for people. I don't say to people, tone your name. Well, if you're capable of doing that, if you really feel you can do that, then do it. And you do it and you break it down into the syllables. But if you can't tone it, if you can't find that courage, or it's, oh, there's too many people around, then speak your name. Just say it. And I'm not talking about full surname, the full name. I'm talking about actually the name your mother called you as a child. And I know so many people will say, but I don't like my name. That's because of the way we sadly remember the negative ways we hear things rather than the positive ways we hear things. Speak your name. You're just acknowledging yourself. You're honoring yourself. You're saying, I see you. I hear you. I believe you. I trust you. I love you. I'm not asking anything of you. I am just acknowledging you. And so by doing, I do this for myself every day. It's about acknowledging ourselves and using our voice to do that. And one of the other things I do an awful lot is, you've done really well today. Well done. Doesn't matter if the only thing you ever did was get out of bed, because actually because I've been in that place of came so close to being diagnosed with ME. But that getting out of bed and then not having energy to do anything. But if you've managed to get out of bed, doesn't matter how little it is you've achieved in the day. Praise yourself for it. Acknowledge yourself that you've achieved in the day. Because we don't require any of this from anybody else. It's all right there for us to do for ourselves. So for me, it's really important that what we're looking for from others, we actually give to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You've told the story many times of upbringing, and that when, Sara, and when you realized that the person that you needed to comfort you was you, when you found yourself. And I've seen that so many times where the one we were looking for as a child to save us ends up being us.
Shall I give you that quote?
Yes.
It's a quote by Alice Little. As a traumatized child, we were desperately waiting for the adult that would come and save us. What we didn't understand was that it would be ourselves as an adult. Because we are the only ones who can, as an adult, who can support our child.
I love that.
It hits home. I don't know about anyone else, but that hits home because it, when you're a child and you're unsure of things, and the only thing I was ever looking for was validation when I was growing up, and I was told, nope, just do it. Doesn't matter if you want to or not. Doesn't matter what you're feeling about it. Just do it. So action became much more important than thinking about it, feeling about it. And as I got to myself, when I got to my adult life and things turned topsy-turvy and chaos, the emotions were just kind of pushed down. And so I did not hear myself because I couldn't allow it. I had to get through every day. I was in survival. I was in warrior mode. I couldn't allow emotions. And so it comes to that when we get older and wiser, hopefully we get wiser anyway, that we can look back and see that we can give ourselves the comfort that we never had. We can give ourselves the validation. We can give ourselves that love or caring that we needed back at certain times that we couldn't find. And that was for me a really important part in accepting myself and looking in the mirror and saying, you're not so bad. One of the hardest things I did was standing in front of the mirror for 5 minutes, staring at me, looking at me in a mirror for 5 minutes. And that is sometimes very tough to do. Not because you don't want to blink, but because you're looking into your depths of your soul, yourself. You're looking at you truly through your own eyes. And that's scary, but also allows you to be so much more open with yourself when you can kind of delve through that. What do you find, Dianna, are some of the ways that people can start listening and to themselves and also bringing their voice out?
So I love that one too, Scott. It's like standing and looking in the mirror, and it's hard to do, as you saw, and it's hard for those. I mean, we are all healing practitioners, so when you're not in that field and you're just suffering, it's very, very hard to do that. As you guys would know with your clients. It's very difficult to do. It's very difficult to challenge ourselves at all. And it's particularly difficult when we're voice challenged to begin with. Nope, can't do that. Nope, can't do that. I need to do that somebody else needs me to do. So in terms of helping someone heal or giving them tools to heal, this is one of them. Like, understanding that voice wound is a really big one. And again, not from a place of there's something wrong with you, but that, these are the commonalities. This is what happens for me. This is my experience. And I'm going to take that experience out of the human sauce, and I'm just going to view it. I'm just going to view it. I'm just going to take a look at it and say, yep, that's what happens. That's how I feel when that happens. These are the places that I get tripped up more often than not. And this is what I can do to either regulate my nervous system and or just calm me. Just calm me. So I think it's important that we start with that non-judgmental, okay, I have trouble with voice. Even just saying it, I have trouble with voice. And people don't like to say that because, the feelings that come up for most people is fear. There are two big ones, fear and shame. So do you really want to tell your boss that, well, hang on a minute. I'm struggling here with being able to tell you something. It's difficult for people. It's really difficult. But understanding yourself in that context of this is what happens for me. This is my experience. So journaling about it, talking to someone about it that gets it, either whether it be a coach or, a really trusted friend who's just going to hear you. They're not going to comment and say, go get them, that doesn't always work. So I think those things are really, really important, but they have to begin at that level of understanding what's happening for you and knowing that you are not. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just, it's what we've experienced. And I know we've talked about this as a group too before, that, it's separating from the human sauce. It's stepping out and saying, I'm just gonna observe. I'm gonna be the observer here, and I'm going to write down everything that I see. So, a self-meditation on that kind of stuff is always really good. Self, the kind of self things that you were talking about, Sarah, soothing the self, and I think all that is really super, super useful. I mean, because it does us no good to try to change somebody else. We have to do this for ourselves. So the more we understand ourselves and the more we learn about ourselves, the greater our ability to, first of all, heal from some of the wounds that we have experienced, but also to move forward with make different choices for ourselves, make different, different choices about whether it be what we say and how we say it, or even who we hang out with and who we don't. And so I think there's a lot we can do, and I think pretty much everything I think that we can do as a healing tool applies to voice. You know, I say that a lot, that everybody is affected by voice. And every time every time we experience a healing session of any kind, it's going to help the voice too. So you can't really go wrong. So you pick your favorite. I tell people that too. Pick your favorite and go with that. But just measure it for yourself, because you are the boss, right? You are the one that knows what's going to work and what's not going to work. So you choose what works for you. And, you know, if it works, then it works. If it stops working, then go to your next one or find something else that resonates with you that feels good. It all has to come back to us, because we're the ones that have to make the change ultimately, as we mentioned before.
Love it. I was reminded of, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And there's fine. It's all in how you say it.
And why you say it, right? Why you say it. So if you're ticked off and you want to manage something, where is that coming from? That's part of the understanding too. What am I mad at? What makes me mad? Is it because I feel like I'm being taken advantage of? Am I being taken advantage of? Or am I mad at myself for something else? You know, I mean, it's even that analysis, our self-analysis, our awareness of what's happening for us allows us to make other choices, allows us to sit in that and decide, okay, how do I want this to play out? You know, what's my goal here? You know, is my goal to embarrass this person? Probably not. You know, if my goal is to feel better about myself, then I know exactly what to do.
Bless you. Yeah. Scott, I know we're going to lose you in a couple of minutes. So is there anything you would like to add before you have to leave us?
Just about re-emphasizing how important voice is in setting boundaries, telling people how, and allowing people to deal with us in the way that we want to be dealt with. And also that voice is a gift, that when you say something with compassion, with honesty, with gratitude, with love, how does it affect the other person? Hopefully in a positive way. So use your voice as a gift. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you. Dianna, any final words from you?
I don't think so, except that people are welcome to come and join my free dance meditation every month.
Is that on your website?
It is. Yeah,
okay.
It is.
Yeah, which is cravemorelife.com.
Yes.
I've just put it in the chat, and I will make sure it's under the video on YouTube as well.
Thank you. That's beautiful. I appreciate being here with both of you. You're both very skilled and deeply honorable people, and I appreciate being in your company and being able to talk about voice. So thank you very much.
Well, bless you, and thank you for being part of the book and for joining us. We do this because we care. That's why we do it. So, folks, if anything that Dianna's talked about, please do check out her website. I'm sure there's a contact page on there that people can sort of contact you if they wish to. If you're watching on YouTube, Scott's and my information is going to be under there as well. So please, if you feel like connecting with us, we share because we care. That's the most important thing. Thank you to both of you. It's been a real pleasure as always. Next week, I'm being joined by Matthew Haynes, and he's going to be sharing arc healing, a sovereignty-based modality, which to a certain degree fits very well following on from this program. So feel free to join us for any of our programs, and all of the programs are on the website. You can watch on the catch up. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Dianna. Thank you to each and every one of you for watching, and I hope this has supported you. Take care, be safe, stay well. Namaste, sweet souls. Bye.